blessed enough to be with us today, we decided to give you a little gift, and we're going to add a little snazzy presentation on caseload cleanup, because the paraprofessional needs is not going to take us very long. So, okay, now you can start to record.
We wish you would have recorded that welcome, by the way. A little snazzy.
Snazzy.
Was nice.
Stop.
All right, you're
Lauren,
golden.
you good to go?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's jump right into it with paraprofessional needs. Can head to the next slide, Jenny.
Oh, there we go.
So today we're going to be discussing the para matrix. So you may be familiar with this already, but what we use a para matrix for is helping us identify needs in different areas of a student's day. And it really helps us to narrow down the amount of minutes that we want to go ahead and put on that service grid. So why do we use this? It's really important to be least restrictive. That's kind of our theme throughout special education. And it's no different when it comes to scheduling our paraprofessionals. We want to make sure that kids are getting what they need, not too little, and certainly not too much either. And how do we do that? So the first step to decide when you're going to fade or increase a student's paraprofessional support is to meet with the IEP team. It's always going to be a team decision. Next is to identify the level and types of support that the student is currently receiving. Are they having academic support, behavior? Maybe they're having PCA time. What are they getting, and what does the description look like? Next, as a team, you're going to brainstorm alternatives to the current supports. There's a reason you're meeting as a team, so there must be some ideas you have in mind for change. Next is to outline the plan to increase or reduce the supports, making sure that the paras are involved as far as understanding how they're increasing or fading after the team has made a decision is important to update them on. And then last is to amend the IEP to reflect the proposed supports, get that consent or passive consent, and then move forward with your plan. Who typically fills out a para matrix? Usually you're going to look at the general education teacher's answers when it comes to doing a para matrix. That's especially going to be in a case for a student who's not already receiving support. But you want to identify an adult who's going to give the best depiction of the student's needs, which could be the general education teacher, could be someone else, but we would ask that you let your coordinator know anytime you're going to use a para matrix and who you would like to be filling those answers out in case you do want to look into using someone who is not the teacher. We typically use a para matrix for 12 school days minimum. And then it helps us to identify in multiple skill areas what a student needs as far as academics, social emotional support, or PCA care. It helps depict the time of day that students need assistance. This can be helpful whether you're looking at a high school schedule per class or even down to elementary times. Maybe the student struggles during morning meeting, but does a great job transitioning on and off the bus and getting their materials ready before class. In each area, we look at different rating scales. So as you see, this is page 1. What it looks at on page 1 are self-management and attention skills. So in the field of self-management, you're looking at whether or not the child finds and maintains their place, and how they manage and use school materials. Through attention, you are looking at whether they are attending instruction and to what degree, how they respond, participate, complete, and terminate tasks, as well as follow directions. So when you are looking in the far left columns, you'll see arrival, classroom, lunch and recess. The form that we use for this can be edited on sheets, which can allow you to put different areas that match up better with the student's schedule. Then you'll find the skill and you're going ahead and rating students 0 through 3. So 0 would be typical activity from the student and no need for paraprofessional. And then it works its way up all the way to 75% or more of the time that the student would need assistance. What's really great about this form is that in each descriptor of rating, it's going to tell you exactly what the student is doing so that you can accurately rate them based on what you're observing or what a teacher is observing in class. Page 2, section B, focuses on behavior and functional needs, including interpersonal skills, dangerous behaviors, also looking at eating, grooming, dressing, etc. So the rating scale for this works exactly the same as on page 1, from 0, having no need, up to 3, which is 75% of the time or more. Of course, in each area, since these are very different from page 1, the descriptions per rating are different. So making sure that people are reading those as they go through to relate them to what they're seeing. And then lastly is section C. This is for overall student participation and can be very helpful if you're looking at students who have recently integrated or are reintegrating from our Rum River programs. And it's kind of a summary of how much the student is participating. It's just the one field, so you can take into consideration answers that you had in other fields as well to do the same 0 through 3 rating. So looking at the IEP, after 12 days, you're going to ask your coordinator, if you don't already know, how to go ahead and score a para matrix. That's going to narrow down the areas where the student has need, the service, what kind of support. The frequency and direct minutes are going to be based off of the length of time in each class where the student demonstrated need on the matrix. So using one is a great way to be very accurate on our time in the IEP. Looking at a statement of need, this is directly driven by the rating scales where the student demonstrated need. For example, if the student is showing high need in the field of finding and maintaining place, maybe our description is going to say student needs help directly with, and you're going to use the matrix and write down how the para helps them find and maintain their place. Next is your supervisor, which is always the case manager, and then the location, which is normally regular class. That's very typical, but we also want to list out what classes they need the assistance in the description. And a big part here is ignore the red text. It's gone back and forth over time, whether you want to click the red text, which says non-child specific adult supports described in accommodations. If a student has para support, you click yes and you ignore the red text. We don't put para support in accommodations. That is a service, so we want it on that grid. So that is paraprofessional matrix. Does anyone have any questions about that before we head on to caseload cleanup? All right.
All right. Thank you, Marissa. All right, so now we wanted to add information on how to do a caseload cleanup. Jenny, if you go back and click on the link in that slide, please. Okay. And then you'll have to click share that screen once you get there.
I have to share this screen?
Well, it's going to ask, because it's going to pop up a new window, so you'll need to click on
share this instead.
It should be right at the top of your screen. You should say,
like, oh yeah, gotcha.
There you go. So this document is located in our due process resources on our website. It's just a step-by-step caseload cleanup. We did include a screenshot from both SpedForms 1.0 and 2.0. Thank you, Lauren, for doing that 2.0 version. So if you're looking through your caseload and you have tons of students on your list that either A, you don't case manage anymore, you don't need to be shared with them anymore, or if they've moved out of your district, or if they've exited from SPED, whatever the reason may be, this provides a step-by-step tutorial on how to clean up your working list. And then it also is important because when we're looking at like MA billing and just different workload analysis, like there are sometimes where we'll get kids that pop up on our list that they were born in 1980s and obviously are not in school anymore with us. So just really wanting to clean those up. So the first thing to do is you would go to the setup page located, as you can see in those screenshots, right? When you click on the student on the 1.0, it's right there. And then on the left on SpedForms 2.0, so you click on student setup. So if you're changing the status, so if they're still in the district, but they have been dismissed from special ed or their parents revoke consent, whatever reason, they're no longer a special education student, you change this status to either a 2, EC evaluated and did not qualify, or evaluated, qualified for services and parents refused, or the IEP was terminated during the school year. So you would choose one of those status change reasons. So here's an example of those drop downs. And again, you're looking at that top status change drop down in the red. And you would just select your reason for why they are no longer in special education. Then if the student is still in special education, but no longer in your district, you're going to go to the status end drop down or option. And so the typical reasons why, or typical change status reasons you would choose are they've moved out of the district, which is a 4, a 3 is moved to a non-public or homeschooled, 5 is they've moved to another state or country, 8 is they graduated, 11 deceased, or 14 withdrew after 15 consecutive days of absence. You would just change that, and then the status stays a 4, which is that top line we just talked about. Because again, they're still SPED, just no longer in your district. And then there's the screenshots to walk you through those. Then once you've done that, they will now be that gray face on SpedForms, or I don't know what it would, anybody know the 2.0 version? What does it look like? Is it just?
I don't know.
I think you're looking at icons that are more like stop signs or yellow signs. So we're missing.
Okay, all right. Gotcha, I know. I missed the faces. Anyways, once you do that, then you will send them to a new case manager. So you're gonna click that sharing transfer button on SpedForms on their main page, and then you're gonna click send to a new case manager. Then you're gonna put in inactive as the first name, and the last name is your district. So whether it be Princeton, Io, Malacca, Ogilvie, Graham, Mora, you would put that. So each district has their own inactive folder that the coordinators can access. So if students would come back to our district, or you eval'd and dismissed and needs pop up and we need to bring them back in, we can easily access that record. So you choose that, and then you click reset sharing and then send. And that is it. That way that you can easily clean up your working student list and get rid of those students that are no longer with us in your district. Also, if you have a student that you don't need to be shared with you anymore on your same student list, once you click on them, you can click just remove from my list. And so it just it takes away your sharing access for that student too. Any questions?